Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today I am here to do my top 9 movies that scared me, inspired by the Rad Pack's Rad 9 Challenge, movies that scared us. These are my top 9 movies that scared me. So I know I'm a little late to the party, but you know what they say?
Well, better late than never.
Pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right. So when you're talking about movies that scare me, it's gonna be very different and they're gonna scare me for very different reasons than they scare a lot of other people. Most of you who have been with the channel this short time since I started, you know that I am a horror filmmaker, that I've made a bunch of horror films, like 7 or 8 horror films. I write them, I direct them. So I have a kind of different perspective on them. And of course, I'm a huge horror fan. I'm a movie fan in general. That's why I do this. That's why I make movies. I was a fan first. I'll be a fan till I die. But it takes different things to scare me. I'm just a different type of person. So you're probably not going to see a lot of things that maybe scare other people, and you're probably going to be surprised a little bit by what does scare me. And you might think that scares him. What the hell? But it is a very different list. What scares you is very personal. It's very different for everyone. And for me, this is the stuff that scares me. So, without any more talk, let's get to it. All right. So these are in no particular order whatsoever, but I am going to start with the first horror movie that I really vividly remember seeing. And I was only like 5, and the movie had just come out. And I saw it at home. I didn't see this one in the theater. I saw this one at home, and it is Nightmare on Elm Street. I've talked about this. This was in the honorable mention in the movies that made me, and honorable mention on my top 25 favorite movies of all time. I still love this cover from this old DVD set. We still need a better set for Nightmare on Elm Street. But this movie, like I said, I was only like 5 or 6 when I saw this. And my older brother and me, we got it was rented from the movie rental place, the old mom and pop place. And we watched it at home. And he scares me, man. Freddy scared the hell out of me, because unlike Jason, who, if you wanted to avoid Jason, you just didn't take your ass to Camp Crystal Lake and have sex. And if you wanted to avoid Michael Myers, you just stayed away from Haddonfield and you were good to go. But Freddy could get your ass even if you were anywhere. It didn't matter. All you had to do was go to sleep, and eventually you had to go to sleep. Now, as an adult, it's interesting because the movie kind of scares me in a little bit different way now. Like, I found out later that Wes Craven got the idea for this based off of a true story, kind of based off of some stories that he had read in the news about these kids and stuff dying in this one area. I forget where it was, but they all died in their sleep and with no known cause. So that is a little bit scary, and that's what that's based off of, and you might see a trend there. All right, next up on my list is a film that I also saw when I was a kid, and it was the first time. Now, this movie is actually a couple years older than Nightmare on Elm Street, and I am talking about The Howling. So this was my introduction. A lot of kids my age, they got introduced to werewolves, maybe with the classic Wolfman, maybe Teen Wolf. No, like 6 or 7-year-old Chase got introduced to werewolf movies by watching Joe Dante's The Howling. And I mean, like I said, I could pretty much watch what I wanted to when I was a kid. I mean, within reason. But the deal is if you had nightmares and you wanted to go sleep with mom and dad, or if you repeated bad words or you acted bad, like people might have done in the movie, you couldn't watch the movie anymore. So, or any movies like that, we minded our P's and Q's because we wanted to watch movies. This movie is like hardcore, like visceral werewolf action. And like when you're a little kid watching this and you see these werewolves, and the transformation in this is almost like, it's not as good as American Werewolf in London, but it is maybe more disturbing in some ways. The big transformation, and I like this movie so much. I like to curate my collection. I've mentioned I'm going to get the best copies of the movies that I love. I also picked up this awesome box set. Like this is like the UK release of The Howling, and I'm going to get into this with my deep dive and on The Howling here that I'm doing pretty soon. But this is a super cool set, and yeah, The Howling. I mean, I just watched it again recently. I'm going to watch it again because I was kind of distracted working in my office, but it absolutely scared me and had an effect. Next up on the list is something that is, I mean, everybody has been scared by this movie. They've thought about this movie. This is a movie that gets into the consciousness. It has been in the consciousness now for almost 50 years. I dare say you cannot go a year, you damn sure cannot go a summer without thinking about this movie and having this movie creep into your mind somehow and scare you. And I am talking about Jaws, the original blockbuster. Speaking of that, this is one of the little slip covers, getting off topic here, that I got from Blockbuster box sets, and I got a lot more in a whole video coming on about this, but he sent me this one, and this is absolutely awesome. But this movie, I mean, everybody is at least somewhat scared of this movie because it made you afraid of the water. It at least made you think about it. Think about that shark. And like as a kid, man, like Jaws disturbed me enough that when I got to go swimming in like a swimming pool, it would creep in your mind. Jaws would creep in your mind. That is effective, especially for something that barely shows the shark. But in the end, your imagination is always going to like fill in things that are way worse than anything you can put on a screen. That's why sometimes books are scarier than movies. People are disappointed by movies after they've read the book because their mind has filled in fantastical imagery that you just cannot capture. And Jaws, the thought of being eaten alive is horrific, scary. And to this day, I'm going to tell you, I cannot go in the water without thinking about Jaws. So Jaws definitely scared me. All right. Moving along here, and then we're going to get into to really meat of it. This next one is one of the newest ones on my list, and you might be surprised by it a little bit. And this movie just like affected me, grabbed me, and didn't let me go, and just absolutely disturbed me. And I'm talking about The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Brian Cox and Emil Hirsch, I mean, are great in this. And I love the quote on the back by Stephen King: "See it, but not alone." I don't know what it is about this movie. It's got almost like, I was old, I used to teach history. So it's almost has like with when they open her up and there's like these writings, almost like hieroglyphics. And I don't know, there's like this ancient evil tied to this that's just eternal, that's going to keep coming no matter what happens. And it's relentless, and it just keeps getting worse. And these people, like, it's like they don't deserve this to happen. And it's just, I don't know, the intensity of it, the way it's so claustrophobic, kind of. I really can't put my finger on what it is completely. It's all of those elements. It fucking scared me, man. It, like, as a grown man, like, it just creeped me out and disturbed me. I kept thinking about it when I went to sleep. And, you know, it's one of those where, like, I'll watch it again, but, like, I gotta watch it with somebody. So, Autopsy of Jane Doe. This next one was also on one of my other lists, and I can't remember what it was on. I know I talked about it in another video, and this is a movie that maybe you don't even classify as a horror movie. So it's kind of an interesting one to be on my list, and I guarantee you when I show you this, some of you are going to be like, huh? What the hell's wrong with him? What is he afraid of? Why is he afraid of that? I'm talking about Event Horizon. It's so reflective. I actually love this movie, but this movie is scary, and I think it is scarier. And this isn't an insult to anyone who isn't afraid by it, but I think the deeper a thinker you are, and the more you have, like, this imagination, because, like, I have to think up some shit, man. Like, to write horror movies and stuff like that, you have to think up a lot of stuff. So you have to be able to visualize creepy stuff in detail that you can't really imagine unless you sit down to do it. And there's little things in this. And I mean, you also take in your experience with you, and, you know, like your foundations, your religious beliefs, all those kind of things, like, play into it when you're talking about horror movies and things that scare you. And this movie goes into, like, first of all, when they made this movie, basically this ship had something on it that could create black holes, like wormholes. And this is at a point in time, so they could travel between, like, space-time. They could fold space-time. And this was created just years before black holes were proven to, like, to actually exist. I know you would think that they always have existed because Einstein said they existed and things like that, but they were technically theoretical still when this movie was made. And then, like, 10 years or so later, they're like, oh yeah, shit, they actually do exist. Here they are. Here's the result of what they're doing and things like that. But in this movie, this ship was, like, making black holes or wormholes to travel through space-time. And what happened is it went to another dimension. It went to hell. That's where it went. It went to hell. And everyone that was on it died and suffered the torment of that. It went to hell. And there is this part where you see these flashes of, like, people being tortured in hell. And Sam Neill's character, it chills me to my bones, where he says, when Lawrence Fishburne says, I know we have to go to hell. And, like, he's got this plan to blow up the ship. But Sam Neill's character turns to him and just deadpan cold says, hell is only a word. The reality is far worse than you could ever imagine. Or whatever the line is. It is chilling. It is chilling. And this movie scares me. It's creepy. I love the movie, though. Absolutely love the movie. I think it's very unique, and I really, really like it. Pumped to get it on 4K. The next one may also surprise you a little bit, and then I'm going to get into three that kind of go together that may be closer to the very top of my list as far as what scares me. This one is going to surprise you, and I'm talking about Dawn of the Dead, and not the original Dawn of the Dead. I'm talking about the 2004, 2005 Dawn of the Dead. Now, I was in, like, my mid-20s when this came out, but I think this is the first time I ever really saw zombies be fast and aggressive and violent, and it increased that relentlessness in things like what always makes zombies scary, to me, is the sort of end of the world virus that they're basically bringing, and just their relentless, ever coming nature. It's like you could kill a million and a million more. They're just going to keep coming and coming and coming. And that relentlessness is scary, but they're slow. They're slow as shit. So you have a chance to get away, and things like that. And you do have a chance to fight back, especially like the old, slower original George, like Romero zombies. Look, I can fight you. At least in my mind, and this is what things that are scary, when I'm 6'3", 250 pounds, I feel like, hell, I can fight off a zombie if I need to. Especially one that's moving that slow. But this changed the game. And I actually saw this with like some other football players and stuff, and people are squirming in the seat. And, because they're fast, they're almost like superhumanly fast now, and they never get tired, and they just keep coming at you. And there's disturbing things in here. And of course, the whole, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth line. And just the whole like hopelessness of it. Very scary, but seeing the zombies be so fast, mean, violent, attacking, instead of just, no, they were coming at you. And that added a whole new dimension that I really hadn't ever paid attention to before. And that was scary. All right. I got 3 more to go. And part of what scares me about these 3 is, in some way or another, they were all based on a true story. Now, you can take that with what you will. I know there's certain things that are, whatever, like maybe this or that, and everything gets fabricated. You only have to have a little bit for it to be based on a true story. But foundationally, there's some truth there. And anytime you add a shred of truth, it sort of just increases that could maybe happen. And to me, things that in my mind could reasonably happen, or some facsimile of them could reasonably happen, are always scarier. Also, things that I feel like I cannot fight, that I don't have a chance to get away from, that are beyond my power, that are supernatural. Those are going to scare me more than something that tangible that I can get my hands on. And that just goes back to different things that scare you. Well, the first movie in this is a movie that scares the crap out of me. And I'm telling you, you guys may be shocked by my top 3 here. But I am talking about 1408 here is the next one on my list, with John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. This is based on a Stephen King story. Now, Stephen King actually did get the idea of this from a somewhat true story where a paranormal investigator, I think his name is Christopher Chosin or Chosin, I can't remember, it's not in front of me. He was investigating a supposedly haunted hotel, but this was in, I think it was San Diego, and ended up dead. Was in a room, had logged like all these different things, and was there for a couple of days and ended up dead. Other people had also died there and had reported seeing things, and that's why he was investigating it. He ended up dead, and they didn't have like a clear cause. So yes, it could be a lot of things, but this is what inspired Stephen King to write this. And this movie is messed up, man. Like, he goes into this hotel room where there's supposed to be all these things, and Samuel L. Jackson does all he can do as the hotel manager, but like beg and yank him out of there not to do it. But John Cusack, he doesn't believe. He's an investigator and a writer, and, he's wanting to see something. Well, he gets something, and there's just something about the claustrophobic nature of it, and the hopeless, no escape from the outside, and then being tortured with your own thoughts and in your own private hell and all of this stuff. And it just never ending again and again and again and again, it's scary to me. It's scary. And if you've never seen it, watch this movie and watch it with a different mindset. Don't just be looking for things to jump out at you out of boo holes and scare you. Think deeply about this one, especially how it ends or doesn't end, and see what happens to you from there. All right, the last two on my list are two films that are kind of like haunted house movies. And the first one up, you're probably going to laugh because the sequels are kind of to this one. And I'm talking first here about The Conjuring, the first Conjuring movie. It's got that lenticular cover there, so it's shining. Now, this is based off of somewhat of a true story, and you have Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I mean, they were real investigators and things like that. But this movie, in case you didn't know, is rated R for no other reason than it is scary. There's not tons of blood. There's no nudity. There's no bad language even hardly in the movie. It says rated R for sequences of disturbing terror. That's it. That's all it's rated R. And yeah, it's really hard to get an R rating based on that. Really hard. It's intense. And what's worse to me is someone who believes in that kind of stuff and has, family experiences maybe with that kind of stuff. This movie is completely plausible to me. Like, there's stuff that's over the top for sure, added for the movie. But like a evil entity in your house disrupting your family, hurting you, things like that, that is completely plausible to me. And this movie went hard, right? Me and my friend Lance, who's also a filmmaker, he made a bunch of movies with me. We were in the middle of production. We had a day off while we were filming a movie. He and I went out to have some drinks and dinner, and we went to like a 11:30 p.m., like a midnight screening of this movie. And I think we were about the only people in there. So horror movie's always going to hit you harder in the movie theater, right? Usually because you're closed in the dark and you're a captive audience. There's not anything, unless you're on your phone constantly, there's not as many distractions. So we watch this movie, and then we drive home, and we're creeped out, and we get back to my house, and nobody's there, and it's 1 a.m., 2 o'clock in the morning. We didn't leave any lights on. The house is completely dark, and we're spooked out already. And we come in, and it was intense enough, and he and I joke about it to this day. In my living room, there was a couch and two couches instead of a couch and a love seat. There were two couches. And to get this off our mind, we popped in the movie. Two grown men popped in the movie Sweet Home Alabama. He laid on one couch. I laid on the other couch. We had several lights on, and that's how we slept that night because it was disturbing. And so the movie, yes, The Conjuring scared me. The sequels, no, they didn't. This one did. All right. The last movie that scared me, the last movie on this list is one that came out before I was born, I think, right before I was born. But it's one that's extremely famous. It's one that is based on a true story. Who knows how it's been changed and tweaked and what happened and what didn't happen, but the essence is there. And since that time, there have been other people who were there, investigators, impartial people, things like that. They're like, look, I don't know what happened over here with the main story, but that house is messed up. And I am talking about the Amityville Horror. Now, this is an exquisite release right here by Vinegar Syndrome. Absolutely. And I'm going to get into it eventually by itself and do a deep dive. And I'm going to tell you more about why this particular movie has such an effect on me, and you can believe or not believe. But this movie it's always scared me. My dad would not watch this movie. After the first time he saw it, he would never watch it again. And I'm not like, the art here is great. I'm not, for personally, I'm not crazy about the back, but it's cool looking. And if you can kind of see, it says "Get Out." But this movie, man, it's a lot of it now, like, glowing eyes outside the window, not so much scary, but are realistic, but scary. But a lot of the stuff in here is very plausible to me, like the way something could drive you to do something. And I kind of grew up with it that way, so it scared me. Like, there was a belief, like my great grandfather was a preacher, and he actually firmly believed that ghosts and demons existed, and he would say that ghosts couldn't hurt you, that they could scare you into hurting yourself, and that a demon could possess you or something like that. So when when I thought about that as a kid, you got to remember too, when you see something, I was a kid. So, you think about it and you're like, I could see that. They're like, if there was something evil, it's not just going to reach out with a machete and kill you, but it could drive you crazy and make you hurt yourself or someone else. And that's scary because, people can be, lose their minds. And if something could drive you to lose your mind or whatever, it's scary. And the whole, like, cover the well, it's the passage to hell. Like, I'll never forget that woman in the basement. It was scary. It marked me as a kid, and it scared me then. It scares me now, but it's a movie that I really like watching. And 4K, fantastic on it. Love the movie. That is 9 movies that scared me. I do have a couple of honorable mentions that I want to mention. Another one that I saw when I was a kid that I love now, that is kind of funny, and I actually, shoot me, I do not have it on any physical media. It's one of the ones I'm in the market to get. Evil Dead. The original Evil Dead, I don't know. I saw it when I was a kid. It scared me. Another one famously that scared me, that was based on a true story, was The Exorcist. It's about demon possession. It feels very real. It's a real account written in a book. Yes, in the real account, it was a boy. There was things changed, but the essence is there, and it is a scary movie. And a final one is Poltergeist. Again, I was a kid when I saw Poltergeist. Between Poltergeist and the scary tree outside the window, and Salem's Lot with the vampire outside the window, and Amityville Horror with the red eyes out the second story window, to this day at night, I fucking hate going to have to close blinds or windows or curtains on windows, because of what I might see outside. My imagination runs wild because I create things like that, right? I write things and I create things like that. My imagination runs wild. So there's always that little moment, because of these movies, that in my imagination that I have, that when I walk up to a window at night to close blinds or to close curtains, I think I see something outside the window. And that's the kind of shitty part, but also the great part about having a great imagination to be able to create stuff, and about being a horror movie fan. And there you go. There is the challenge, the 9 movies that scared me. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. Shout out to the Rad Pack and Born to Be Rad and Garrett over there, and my killer podcast, and Dead Couch, and all that stuff. You guys are awesome. You're rad. And Let me know in the comments, what movies scare you? What'd you think of my list? Are you surprised by some of them? I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, because they're probably a little bit different than a lot of other people's movies. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.